Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm Rolene Marks, your host, bringing you the top stories from Israel and today around the world, every Monday to Thursday, right here on this platform, or if you prefer, on YouTube, and we're there as well. You can find us at the Israel Brief, and all you have to do is click on the big red subscribe button to receive your daily edition of the brief. But without further ado, and before we get into the two big stories of the day, let's talk about Israel and the COVID-19 situation. And it looks like the numbers continue to decline. In fact, the statistics that we have received today from the Ministry of Health have the rate of infections at its lowest since June. There will be a lot of debate and discussion with the coronavirus cabinet later today as they decide what restrictions to start lifting. Will they allow more classes in schools to go back to school? Will they include elementary schools? Will they open synagogues to restricted numbers? And will they allow more businesses and stores to open? That we will find out later. But let's take a look at two big stories making major headlines around the world today. And the first is another journey back to social media. I know we've been speaking about that a lot lately, but we go back to dealing with Twitter. And yesterday, Twitter's CEO, Jack Dorsey, sat in front of a very, very robust Senate hearing where he was asked a variety of questions, including why is it that Twitter has not allowed the New York Post's expose on Hunter Biden to be published, but will sanction US President Donald Trump. And Jack Dorsey said that, it goes to allegations of misinformation. And when Senator Ted Cruz questioned him about misinformation and allowing Holocaust denial, he said, well, Holocaust denial is misinformation, and we don't really have a policy for that. We can only remove the posts if they lead to violence. Now, this, of course, is profoundly offensive and equally offensive to many in the United States who say that it's not the place for Twitter to control what the American public deserve to hear. One of the criticisms, whether you like or loathe US President Donald Trump, why is he sanctioned while somebody like Iran's Ayatollah al-Khamenei is allowed to tweet out that Israel is a cancer that needs to be wiped off the map and continues to deny the Holocaust? And Jack Dorsey's answer was very telling. He said he respects the Ayatollah's right to speak. That, of course, is extremely offensive to us here in Israel because it exposes that this kind of anti-Semitism, anti-Israelism, which is calling for the destruction of our country, is allowed while the US president is silenced effectively. And it continued to be a very, very fiery debate. And one of the tweets coming out from the Ayatollah afterwards was that he sees the publishing in countries of a picture of the Prophet Muhammad is the same as Holocaust denial. And today we have seen two terror attacks taking place in France, the first in a cathedral in Nice where 3 people were beheaded by somebody who came in shouting Allahu Akbar, and another in the town of Avignon when an assailant who tried to attack a police officer shouted that and was subsequently shot to death. And this has raised and inflamed tensions in France between Muslims and the non-Muslim community, as well as a war of words between Turkish President Erdogan and France's President Emmanuel Macron. So we're going to watch the space and we're going to see what Twitter effectively does. And while we're on the subject of anti-Semitism, we now go to the United Kingdom, where the Equality and Human Rights Commission has ruled that they found the UK Labour Party under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn, and after their investigation that they've conducted since last year, guilty of allowing for harassment and discrimination and breaking the equality laws. And this is a decision that has been welcomed by the many whistleblowers, the many members who put forward complaints, including celebrities like Tracy Oberman and Rachel Riley. It's been welcomed by the members of the Jewish community who said they did not want this fight, but they are very happy that they showed up to fight for their rights, and they are proud that they did. And the Equality and Human Rights Commission have said to the Labour Party, you need to fix this and rebuild trust with the Jewish community, and you need to ensure that you have the proper processes in place to deal with some of the abuse, and the majority of the abuse was found on platforms like social media. The Commission went on to say that while the Labour Party has clear mechanisms for dealing with sexual misconduct, they have no clear mechanisms for dealing with anti-Semitism, and this needs to be fixed immediately. Jeremy Corbyn, the former Labour Party leader who was ousted because of this very issue, he released a statement on his Facebook page saying that, one anti-Semitism is one anti-Semite too many, but instead of saying sorry or taking responsibility, he blamed it on a smear campaign by political rivals. Well, Jeremy, we just want to say we want to dedicate a song to you. Sorry seems to be the hardest word, but you might want to try it, because many members of the Labour Party have been through a tremendous amount of trauma and pain as a result of institutionalized anti-Semitism. So those are the top stories making headlines in Israel and around the world. As you can imagine, Israel takes a great interest in what happens to our diaspora communities, and those stories do dominate the headlines. But it's near the weekend time for us here, and if you're looking for something to do this weekend, look no further than our website at www.layoftheland.online. Read our original content there. You can also find it on Facebook at Lottel Site. While you're there, give us a like, give us a follow. Don't forget about that YouTube channel, and while you're there, subscribe, you want to, and interact with us on Twitter at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. So from the whole team at Lay of the Land and the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks, wishing you all a safe and a healthy weekend. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you again next week.